All right.
Great. Hi, everybody. I'm Ann Lagasse. I'm of Charlestown Marina. And I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to partner with the BPDA and the Charlestown community as we look at redeveloping Pier 5. Tonight, we're going to present our vision, answer questions, and hopefully earn your support to develop Navy Blue, which we hope to be the Boston's first floating community. My husband Chuck and I have been working in the Navy Yard for over 7 years now, developing and operating Charlestown Marina, a best-in-class facility comprised of Piers 9, 8, and 6. We have a 35-year history working on the water, including developing marinas in East Boston, the Seaport, the North End, and Provincetown. Given our passions for marina, we are very excited about this opportunity to redevelop Pier 5 right in our own backyard. To turn our vision into reality, we partnered with some great people, including Parent and Diamond, which is led by Ralph Parent and brings to the team a long history of working with minority design and development partners, and will implement a proven diversity and inclusion platform. We'll also be working with Urban Spaces, which has a long track record of developing innovative and sustainable communities, including the Lancaster at 1501 Comm Ave, which was Boston's first condominium to achieve the US Green Building Code LEED Gold certification. I'd like to introduce you now to Paul, founding partner of Urban Spaces, who will outline some of our program's key attributes. Thanks, Paul.
Thank you, Ann. In the same way that the Navy Yard has evolved from its original military purpose to become one of Boston's most vibrant mixed-use communities, Navy Blue will mirror the spirit of transition as we participate in the adaptation along the waterfront from industrial to other uses. We believe that Navy Blue will be the most dynamic, inclusive, and feasible approach for Pier 5 because it energizes the waterfront by expanding on the traditional marina to create a floating community of 122 liveaboard vessels, which we call LVs. Navy Blue will also ignite an economic development engine that will provide opportunities for jobs and wealth creation for minority, women, and veteran-owned businesses and individuals who've historically been underrepresented in real estate development. We'll restore the historic pump house to create a distinctive public amenity and invigorate the Harbor Walk by extending on Charlestown Marina's ongoing operation to include the stretch from Pier 6 to the pump house. As a fully floating marina, Navy Blue supports the Climate Ready Boston initiative by planning for the impacts of climate change and building a program with a resilient future. Navy Blue builds on our team's track record and experience, relationships in the community, marine construction expertise, and operational know-how, all the while engaging collaboratively with the entire Charlestown community to ensure our mutual success. As important as what we're proposing to develop is how we're doing it. With that, I'd like to introduce the third partner of our tri-venture, Ralph Parent of Parent and Diamond.
Thanks, Paul. I'm Ralph Parent of Parent and Diamond. Our proposal is a vehicle for developing real estate in a socially responsible manner, with an emphasis on the inclusion of all races, genders, and ethnic backgrounds. Our diversity and inclusion platform touches on all facets of the development life cycle, from pre-development through construction to post-completion ongoing operations. Navy Blue's approach to ensuring diversity and inclusion is grounded in many years of doing voluntarily what is now required. Our approach dates back to when my partner Merrill Diamond and Steve Tise developed approximately 225 affordable single-family homes in Indianapolis, utilizing 35 local minority general contractors, increasing their capacity and creating an economic development engine within the community. Following the Indianapolis approach, we have recruited Boston-based Fraser Engineering and Mass Construction, also an MBE, to develop 40 affordable homes throughout Dorchester in partnership with the Department of Neighborhood Development. In keeping with the objectives of our D&I platform, we're expanding these relationships to work together on Navy Blue. We've also recruited One Way Development, a Boston-based MBE with extensive marine and land-based construction experience. Our plan is to create joint venture partnership with smaller MBEs and WBEs with larger, more established companies. This will enable the MBEs and WBE companies to scale up and create economic opportunities for their companies and employees. Regarding the Boston jobs policy, it is my responsibility to keep our team accountable. Our plan to achieve the BPDA mandate is to utilize the established workforces of our team members, mass construction and one-way. Furthermore, since both company owners are on the board of directors for the Massachusetts Minority Contracting Association, we will have access to the association's membership. In addition, our team includes Blue Atlantic Fabricators, an East Boston company with a long history of employing minority labor. Through these efforts, Navy Blue will create an estimated 765 jobs during development and an estimated 189 after development. Navy Blue's D&I platform is specific and executable. It builds on our team's track record and experience to ensure the most feasible and inclusive long-term approach for the redevelopment of Pier 5. And now I'll pass it to my colleague, Steve Tise.
Thank you, Ralph. Good evening. I'm Steve Tise, the design manager for Navy Blue. After this RFP was issued, we carefully studied the challenges of Pier 5, and three major issues emerged. First, Pier 5 would cost over $35 million to stabilize or replace, and a 3-story height limit cannot support these costs. Secondly, Chapter 91 required uses are neither compatible nor feasible. And lastly, the site is effectively landlocked. After an analysis, we decided on a floating community that extends Pier 6 and simplifies the permitting pathway. Our liveaboard vessels are powered recreational vessels berthed at a licensed marina. We rejected larger floating platforms that would lead to jurisdictional conflicts. Our design promotes the reinforcement of what exists: Harbor Walk, Style Cafe, the Pump House, and not on establishing competing uses. We have a minimal impact on the Navy Yard during construction due to our use of the East Boston shipyard. We have no vehicles that will impact the Harbor Walk. Our parking at Flagship Wharf will be with electric carts to service our residents. We have full accessibility throughout by floating both the docks and the vessels. And we have the lowest height with a variegated solar roofscape to benefit our neighbors. To meet these program objectives, we selected a superb Boston-based design team because we want local recovery in a post-pandemic environment. Navy Blue selected Util and Landworks due to their innovative design and vast experience working in Boston Harbor. We also chose JMS, a veteran-owned business, as our naval architect, and Stefan Hubie, an international authority on liveaboard technology, to consult with our team. Now I'll turn it over to Michael and Michael from Util and Landmarks.
Thanks, Steve. In keeping with Ann and Chuck's longstanding commitment to the public realm and the ideal of community here in the Navy Yard and elsewhere, it makes sense that the story of Navy Blue begin with a discussion of the public realm. The Navy Blue approach builds on the energy of the Harbor Walk as a uniquely pedestrian experience. The design reimagines this segment of the Harbor Walk as a new front porch for the Charlestown neighborhood, a linear park comprised of modular planters, pergolas, benches, and leaning rails. The design of the Harbor Walk elements also begins to theme the design of the public promenade. Here, a storytelling frame marks the entry to the promenade, the public promenade leading to the sunset platform overlooking the city skyline beyond. The proposal also seeks to enhance the quality of public access between the urban fabric and the water's edge, and between Pier 6 and to the east and the pump house at the western threshold. All elements will be crafted in East Boston by local artisans and transported via barge for a low impact and quick install. The design is highlighted by storytelling informational timeline panels, which frame various historic elements of the Navy Yard, as well as the greater waterfront and the city beyond. The front porch park elements unite and activate both landward and wood decking side of the Harbor Walk into a more cohesive and activated whole.
On the Harbor Walk, the face of Navy Blue is our sculptural amenity pavilion. And at the water below, a sunset barge supplements the amenity pavilion and provides outdoor space for residents of the marina to gather, recreate, and socialize. 6 unique designs provide an array of liveaboard options to meet almost any lifestyle, family size, or structure, and a unique opportunity to live directly on the water. Navy Blue will be seeking the highly sustainable Passive House standard and is targeting a zero net energy solution for our LVs with cutting edge renewable strategies and integrated sustainable design thinking. At the harbor end of the marina, we're providing a landing where residents or visitors can moor their boats, or a water taxi could await to whisk you off to the airport or over to downtown, depending on your plans for that day. From the bustle of the Harbor Walk, a portal frames views to the harbor beyond, and is the launching point from which you can descend down to the water's edge via gangways to the promenade, which serves as the main organizing element of the marina. The LVs are organized around a series of water courtyards, which provide a unique and active open space experience, accommodating all kinds of recreational activities. The promenade is open to the public and designed to have a similar scale and feel to that of a typical street from any of Boston's most historic neighborhoods. The finger docks between each LV provide a sense of arrival to the LVs, which also double as a quiet and shady outdoor space.
The sunset overlook provides casual social gathering opportunities throughout the day and evening. The frame, used for storytelling purposes and for marking important thresholds along the Harbor Walk, frames long views to the city beyond and becomes a welcoming portal for the water taxi.
4 minutes.
The open space connections from the water courtyards to the promenade and on to the newly refurbished and activated Harbor Walk provide a new sequence of active uses to replace a pier in dire need of rejuvenation. By knitting together an active and intimate community using small-scale live-aboard vessels, we're providing Boston with a blueprint for dealing with its imminent global warming and sea level rise challenges. Now I'll pass it to Chuck to tell us how we're going to do this.
Thank you, Michael. I would like to speak a little bit about our history with the Navy Yard. As Ann mentioned, it took over 7 years of working with the City of Boston, the DEP, the AG's office, and the Charlestown neighborhood to evict the former owner, permit the entire site, and finally move forward with the redevelopment of a waterfront that had been neglected for years. If you walk the waterfront today, you'll see the Harbor Walk, the piers, and the marina finally taking shape. What many of you may not realize is that we have installed massive floating structures at the head of Pier 6 and Pier 8. These structures will improve climate resiliency and protect the newly improved infrastructure and the neighborhood. Some of these structures are the largest ever installed in the United States. We have designed and built 2 complete systems overseas in Sweden, and in the past decade, we have built them at our East Boston shipyard. Pictures of the current slide include several enormous buildings in East Boston. These facilities, once occupied by Bethlehem Steel, will be used to organize and recycle Pier 5 debris and construct the large floating breakwater systems and LVs. The components will then be floated across the harbor, so there will be minimal construction impact to the neighborhood. We are adding a recent video of construction of Pier 6 in the chat box after this presentation. Pier 5 is a very complex project, but the team we have assembled has decades of experience in waterfront planning, development, and construction. This experience gives us total confidence that we can continue to create an excellent, resilient waterfront for Charlestown. Thank you for considering our proposal. And now Paul and Ann will speak to the community benefits.
Thanks, Chuck. Numerous community enhancements will be derived from the city's disposition of Pier 5. The Navy Blue team has developed a palette of creative ideas to ensure that the reach of our proposal extends far beyond the limits of Pier 5. As a marina with floating LVs, we're offering a different type of product, and it's caused us to think differently about how to address community benefits, including inclusionary housing. So we're pleased to offer a contribution of at least $500,000 to affordable housing initiatives. Another innovative idea is our micro-investments mechanism, which will provide minorities, women, and veterans with the opportunity to become vested in the long-term success of the project. We'll also be offering a Building a Floating Community program, in which we'll offer juniors and seniors at Charlestown High School and Madison Park Technical High School the opportunity to learn, both in the classroom and on site, about careers related to every phase of the development.
And in addition to what Paul has just said, we're excited to provide a dedicated and specially equipped LV to the families of our dear neighbor, Spalding Rehab. The concept would be similar to like a Ronald McDonald House. We mentioned we're providing a 650-foot promenade down to our park platform, which would be the water taxi stop. You saw the images of a renewed harbor walk to the pump house. And the pump house, we believe, would be a great space for a community use, but we'd like to hear from the community on how they'd want to use it. So we've got a lot to say. As you can tell, we're very excited about this proposal. But very interested in hearing everyone's thoughts. So we thank you very much.
Thank you. So Kimberly Mahoney, you've had your hand raised for a while. Feel free to unmute yourself.
Yep, good evening. Thanks for letting me speak. Congratulations to all the submission, all the people who submitted this evening. I think you did a great job. I am a manager at a local business, so I always pride myself to be part of these community meetings, and I belong to several nonprofits. I guess my question is pretty specific and pretty straightforward. Out of all the submissions I see, only one of which has really been invested in the community for the last 5 years. And just real quickly, I just appreciate Bill's presentation that he included local business. I think that's very important to hire local, which leads me to just a couple comments and a question. Just the folks here, you've been in the Navy Yard for about 5 years now, I think. I'm just curious, outside of the Navy Yard, what have you done specifically to help local nonprofit organizations and support them? And I guess, have you hired local? Can you give me an idea of how many local Charlestown residents you've hired in the marina? And then just a comment, because I hear a lot about a community floating around, and it's important to me, and I know so many others in the Charlestown community. I wonder, with community in mind, I know the Harbor Walk has been dilapidated for many years and many injuries have been sustained. I just would like you to speak to how much longer that's going to take to be fixed before we dive into this project here. That's my comments, and I appreciate the time. Thank you.
For those questions to Chuck and Ann?
Yep. Well, first off, the Harbor Walk, right? The one we're currently working on. Our goal is to have it done by May 1st. Unfortunately, as we all know, we started this project and then became a pandemic. So the decision was made in conjunction with the neighbors and Dick Mulligan that we would construct this project during the winter so we wouldn't have to shut down the Harbor Walk during the busy fall and spring. So the goal is May 1. I mean, well, fingers crossed, and that will be the case. In terms of employment, we have
one thing you should mention about the Harbor Walk, Ian, is that even though we've been involved in Charlestown for 7 years or so, or 5 years, the major holdup was getting permits, and the permits with the Army Corps as well as the DEP took 3 years actually going on 4 years to get the permits to even start the Harbor Walk. So I just wanted to remind everybody that most of it was permit related, and we worked diligently with the neighborhood to try to get these permits escalated, but it took that long to get it.
Yep. And in terms of employment, in terms of our marina, every year we have a number of local Charlestown people working for us. They've been great. I mean, we've got young people who are possibly pursuing, marina work or, Mass Maritime graduates. So, we definitely hire local to the point about construction, as we mentioned, that all of this is frankly going to be constructed in East Boston at Blue Atlantic. That's all local contractors in East Boston. So we try to stay as local as possible. I think your last question is, what have we done for nonprofits?
Yeah, outside of the Charlestown Navy Yard, where you guys at?
Well, I think we're pretty generous people. Personally, myself, I'm the chairman of the board of Joslin Diabetes Center. Trying to solve the big problem of diabetes.
I get it. I always ask people, especially those who have local ties and have been in the
No, I totally agree.
And it's Charlestown Navy Yard is just not on its own. Charlestown as a whole is you're part of Charlestown.
Yeah, and if you speak to Harbor Arts and everything going on.
Yep, I'm just talking about local nonprofits like Bunker Hill Housing Development Area,
right.
The youth-based programs. But again, I don't want to take up everybody's time.
That's okay. I get it. I mean, one of the things we've been connecting with a lot is the Charlestown Y. Every year we donate to their, we give a slip to their their fundraising so they can raise money, which they're very successful with. And obviously Spalding, we were able to put together a program which is pretty remarkable. Every year we have a 100% accessible catamaran that comes. We give them free dockage. Spalding brings their patients out and people within the disability community. So yeah, we try to be as helpful as we can. But I appreciate your comment. I'm all about local. We are all about local. So I support.
Just try to get that harbor walk repaired as soon as possible, because I know I go down there a lot, and I know people who have fallen there, hurt themselves pretty badly. So I don't even know if it should be used. So just throwing that out there.
Like you say, we're on it. So thank you.
All right, so I'm going to go over to the chat. So a bunch of people have asked questions about how many units are affordable. Are these units, and is this whole development condo, rental, or even Airbnb?
Answer that. So yeah, because of the ground lease structure, we've decided to make it all a leasing model. So no home ownership unless that was able to change, and we'd be open to a change. In terms of the affordable housing, we've really tried to look at this a different way, where we're trying to kind of create a whole bunch of different community benefits, including some that have to do with affordable housing. But because we're a floating marina, we had to sort of think creatively about what is the right balance for this location.
Lucas Riepel, you have your hand raised. Feel free to unmute yourself.
Sure, thanks. Thanks for the proposal. I'm looking at your rendering and it's a bit hard to see, but it looks like this would deal a devastating blow to a beloved community nonprofit just next door, Courageous Sailing. So I'm just wondering if you could speak a bit to whether you've been in touch with Courageous, what kind of plans you have to make sure that Courageous will continue operating both as a community organization and doing STEM education for Boston Public School children. Thank you.
Yes. We have definitely been in touch with them. We've had extensive conversations. We totally appreciate that they've been operating a long time and need to continue to. I know with Charlestown Marina at Pier 6 being a neighbor for many years, and we've been working with Courageous in various ways. So one of the things that's great about our relationships is that we have flexibility with the water sheet, because we, through our partnership, control the water sheet at Pier 6. We can have some flexibility to slide up and down as needed, to share resources. So we're definitely, committed to making it work. We understand and appreciate that, it's a very important resource. And, for example, one idea we've had is to perhaps have the pump house be a place where they can expand their classrooms and other meetings. So we've thought about ideas, and we'll continue to keep an open dialogue.
Thank you very much. So speaking of the pump house, will the development of the pump house keep in mind that the structure is right next to residential units and therefore will not have late night activities and will be relatively quiet?
Like we said, we don't have a program for the pump house. We believe it should be a community building. Not quite sure clearly we'd restore it in terms of, public use, but we believe it would be a community building. So maybe a space for the Friends of the Charlestown Navy Yard to meet, or someone, we mentioned Courageous could use it for a classroom. We don't see it as a commercial activity. So that would be part of our discussion with the community of how they see that space being used.
Thank you. I want to make sure to call on people who haven't had a chance to speak yet. Christine Colley, you have your hand raised. Feel free to unmute yourself.
Okay. Yeah, thanks. I have two questions. One is about demolition. It seems that there was scant reference to it other than don't worry about it. So having lived in the Back Bay when the Hancock Tower was being built and observing years and years of litigation from Trinity Church to get the Hancock to pay for Trinity Church sinking into the ground, what can you say to allay our fears that the explosives that you use won't have an impact on our building structures?
That's a good question for Chuck, I think, please.
Well, one thing that we would like to say is that we've done a lot of work in Boston's harbor, in Boston Harbor. A lot of it's had massive demolition. I mean, Pier 8, we had over 100, might have been understated, but we own the shipyard in East Boston near the airport. It's called Boston Harbor Shipyard. And that, along with one other site that we have access to, we plan on demolishing the pier, loading it on barges, similar to what was done at the bridge around the corner, and not have debris or any seismic action in the neighborhood. We don't right now plan demolishing that pier and using explosives. So we plan on demolishing it, putting on barges, and removing it in another, like Steve said earlier, the site's basically landlocked. So we do have, again, access to a shipyard in East Boston where we can handle the debris.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thanks. The second question that I had was, it seems in your proposal, you indicated that the 50% open space requirement and the setback requirements are not applicable to marinas or floating dock space. I think Morgan referred, I think Morgan answered a question during the last session that seemed to indicate that 50% was required. So maybe Morgan could answer that.
Yeah, so very briefly, we're getting some questions in the chat relating to how this project relates to the requirements in Chapter 91 and the Harbor Walk. I will say that, as I mentioned in the introduction, floating housing is sort of unprecedented and was not a contemplated use when these regulations were put into place. So at this point, we at the BPDA are going to need to do a lot of work in concert with our colleagues at the state to come to a better understanding of how to consider these proposals in terms of the regulations and whether or not they're compliant. And Devin, do you want to say anything else about that?
I'll just add that we plan to submit some requests to the state DEP to ask for some of their feedback on their proposals that are before us. I think we've got, at this point, as Morgan said several times, we're really looking to get community feedback on these proposals themselves, on how community members see them in compliance with regulations or not. We'll do our technical review in the weeks and months ahead, and we're very much at the beginning of the process of this. But I think knowing and understanding how community members view these proposals is very instructive to us as we proceed on that work.
Mm-hmm. Devin, will you make that information available online as you get it from the state and other regulatory agencies?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think we'll certainly find a way to communicate very transparently to everyone what feedback we receive.
Great, thanks. Thanks so much.
And Navy Blue team, do you want to respond to the question?
Well, I can say that historically we have always dealt with, we've had a long-standing relationship with not only the DEP with Chapter 91. We've probably been working on Chapter 91 licenses for almost 40 years. We have worked with in conjunction with this, everybody should be aware that you have to work with the Army Corps of Engineers. So it's a very complex permitting process. And I think, as Morgan said, some of this is very leading edge technology and leading edge work. So we are going to have a very, very, very robust relationship with not only the city of Boston, but the DEP for all Chapter 91 regulations, as well as the Army Corps, and just evolve this in a way that it's very transparent, as we just discussed, so that we can see how these permits should be attained and how should they be looked at by the community, because it's definitely going to involve community involvement, and we plan on meeting all the requirements of Chapter 91.
Great, thank you so much. That's the end of the Q&A period for Navy Blue. So thank you so much.